If Evelyn Hart had left 10 minutes earlier, she would have missed the exact moment her life was dismantled in front of 300 people. And the worst part wasn't what happened on that stage. It was the realization that everyone else in the room had known before she did. Evelyn didn't rush when she stepped out of the elevator. She never did. That had always been her role. The calm center. The one who held everything together while others took credit for the structure she built. Her heels echoed softly against the polished marble as she crossed the lobby of the Orion Grand Hotel in Chicago, each step controlled, deliberate. But something felt wrong. Not visibly, not logically. Just wrong in a way she couldn't immediately explain. Like pressure building behind glass before it fractures. The kind of instinct you learn to ignore when you spend years training yourself to trust logic over feeling. She paused for half a second outside the ballroom doors. Then she pushed them open. The room was drenched in excess. Golden light spilled from chandeliers that looked engineered to impress more than illuminate. Every surface reflected wealth. Loud, unapologetic, almost aggressive. Exactly the kind of environment Blaze Baker thrived in. Visible success, controlled attention, power that needed to be seen. To everyone else, this was his night. Blaze Baker, the face of Orion Systems, the man investors trusted, the name that carried weight in rooms like this. The annual gala wasn't just a celebration, it was a statement. To everyone else, it was his company. Evelyn knew better. She had built Orion from nothing. A cramped co-working office, outdated servers, long nights fueled by cheap coffee and a vision no one else fully understood. Blaze had come later, polished, charismatic, instinctively fluent in influence. He understood people in a way Evelyn never cared to. He became the face. She left everything behind it. At the time, it had seemed like a fair exchange. Standing in that room, she felt the imbalance for the first time. She adjusted the sleeve of her charcoal suit. Clean lines, understated, intentional. No need for attention. Evelyn never needed the spotlight. She designed it. The diamond studs in her ears caught the light as she moved. A gift from Blaze. 6 years ago. A rooftop dinner, the city glowing beneath them. His voice steady as he told her she was the reason any of it worked. She touched one of the earrings without thinking. Cold. Strangely heavy. In her hand was a small black box. Inside it, a rare 1956 Vacheron Constantin, restored with obsessive precision. Blaze had mentioned it once, casually, flipping through a magazine while waiting for a flight months ago. He had forgotten. She hadn't. She never forgot details. That had always been her advantage. Or her vulnerability, depending on who was benefiting. As she moved deeper into the room, the atmosphere shifted in a way that was impossible to ignore. Conversations didn't stop, but they bent around her. People glanced, then quickly looked away. A board member's wife, someone Evelyn had spent hours with at private dinners, offered a tight, almost apologetic smile before turning her attention elsewhere. Another avoided eye contact entirely. It took Evelyn a moment to recognize what she was seeing. Pity. Pity didn't belong in a room like this. Not directed at her. Then the laughter started. Not polite, not controlled. Raw. The kind of laughter that feeds on someone else's fall. Her heartbeat sharpened instantly. She followed the sound, not out of curiosity, out of necessity. The crowd had gathered near the stage. Phones were already raised, recording. Of course they were. Nothing at this level stayed private. And then she saw him. Blaze Baker. Perfect posture. Perfect suit. Perfect control of the room. On one knee. For a split second, her mind rejected the image. Tried to rewrite it into something harmless. A joke. A staged moment she wasn't yet understanding. But Blaze wasn't looking at the floor. He was holding a microphone in one hand and an open velvet box in the other. The diamond inside it was excessive, almost aggressive in its size. Not elegant, not subtle. Very Blaze. And he wasn't looking at Evelyn. He was looking at another woman, with something dangerously close to admiration. Lillian Cross, her stepsister. The world didn't shatter. It shifted, just enough to make everything feel unstable. Lillian had entered Evelyn's life when she was 17. From the beginning, she treated everything like a quiet competition. Not openly, never directly. That wasn't her style. Lillian studied people, found the fractures, waited, and then took exactly what she wanted. Friends, opportunities, moments, piece by piece, always smiling while she did it. And now she stood at the center of the room, dressed in white at a corporate gala, as if the symbolism wasn't intentional. Of course it was. Blaze's voice filled the ballroom, smooth, practiced, perfectly controlled. "Lillian?" He let the moment stretch just long enough to tighten the room around him. "Would you leave behind everything? Even something that was never truly right for you, to build something real with me?" A ripple of laughter moved through the crowd. Low, knowing. And then Blaze turned his head slightly. Just enough. Enough for Evelyn to see his face clearly. The smile. Not emotional, not uncertain. Deliberate, cruel, designed. Like this entire moment had been built for one purpose. Her. And suddenly everything aligned. The whispers, the looks, the tension in the room before she even walked in. This wasn't spontaneous. This was staged. And she had walked into it exactly when they expected her to. Something inside Evelyn shifted. Not loudly, not visibly, but permanently. Lillian smiled. Soft, victorious. Yes. The room erupted. Applause, cheers, raised phones capturing every angle. Someone whistled. Someone laughed harder than they should have. Evelyn stood still, almost invisible in the chaos. And in that moment, clarity replaced shock. They thought she was the one being humiliated. They thought this was the end of her story. They were wrong. Because while the room celebrated, Evelyn reached into her bag, unlocked her phone, and began to act. Quietly, precisely. Payments, canceled. Access, revoked. Authorizations, terminated. Control, reclaimed. By the time the applause began to fade, Orion Systems no longer belonged to the man on one knee. Blaze Baker just didn't know it yet. But he would. Very soon. "I'm ready to leave my wife for you. Right now." Blaze Baker said it like it cost him nothing. Like the woman he had built his entire image on was just replaceable. The room exploded. Laughter hit Evelyn all at once. Loud, raw, unfiltered. It wasn't polite or restrained. It was the kind of laughter people only allow themselves when they believe they're watching someone else fall and they're safely out of reach. For a split second, her body reacted before her mind caught up. Her breath stalled. Her chest tightened. Sound blurred into a low, steady roar. And then she saw the phones. Everywhere. Raised. Recording. Tiny red lights blinking across the room like quiet predators. They weren't just witnessing this. They were preserving it. Lillian Cross looked down at Blaze and smiled. Not warmth, not nerves. Victory. Absolute and unmistakable. Evelyn had seen that smile before, years ago in a different house, in a different life. The day Lillian convinced their father that Evelyn was the one at fault. That was the day Evelyn learned something simple. Truth doesn't win. Strategy does. Lillian leaned toward the microphone Blaze held for her. Her voice came out soft, controlled, almost gentle. "Yes." The words settled into the room like something final. The reaction was immediate. Applause thundered through the ballroom. People stood, cheered, whistled. Glasses lifted. It looked like celebration, like they had just witnessed something rare and beautiful instead of something carefully designed to break someone. Blaze slid the ring onto her finger with deliberate precision, then pulled her into a kiss that lasted just long enough for every camera in the room. Not intimacy, performance. Everything with Blaze was performance. Someone nearby clapped louder than necessary, like this was something to admire. Evelyn didn't move. She stood there, still holding the small black box, perfectly composed in the center of a moment designed to destroy her. The watch inside suddenly felt heavier, not because of the price, because of what it meant. Attention, memory, care, things that had never actually been mutual. She knew exactly what they were waiting for. A scene, tears, anger, a public unraveling dramatic enough to replay, dissect, and gossip about for months. They wanted confirmation that she had lost, that she was weak, that she was exactly what Blaze had just implied she was, irrelevant. But Evelyn Hart had spent 15 years building systems that didn't break under pressure. Systems didn't react. They calculated, they adapted, they executed. Emotion was noise, and noise gets people destroyed. So she gave them nothing. No tears, no anger, no acknowledgement. She turned and walked away. Clean, controlled, final. For a moment, the room didn't know how to respond. The reaction stalled, like something had gone off script. Confusion spread quietly through the crowd. This wasn't how this was supposed to end. Where was the breakdown? Where was the spectacle they were expecting to record and replay? Evelyn walked past the champagne tower, glass stacked on glass, excess built into a monument. Past the ice sculpture of the Orion logo, already softening under the heat. Past the musicians who had stopped playing entirely, their attention pulled towards something far more real than the performance they had been hired for. No one stopped her, no one spoke, because no one understood. The doors opened. Cool night air replaced the suffocating warmth of the ballroom. And just like that, the noise disappeared. The city felt real again. Car horns in the distance, a siren somewhere far off, wind moving between buildings. No performance, no masks. Her car was already waiting. Of course it was. Evelyn didn't react. She anticipated. She had called it the second Blaze picked up the microphone. The second she understood exactly what this was. She slid into the back seat. The door closed. Silence settled in. The driver glanced at her in the mirror, careful, observant. "Rough night?" he asked. Evelyn looked back at the hotel. Through the glass, she could still see movement, light, celebration continuing like nothing had happened. Like everything had gone exactly as planned. A slow, precise smile touched her lips. "No," she said. "It's getting better." Because for the first time that night, she could see the entire board. They thought they had taken everything from her. They thought they had removed her from the game. What they didn't realize was that they had just removed her restraint. The penthouse felt different when she stepped inside. Nothing had changed, but everything had changed. The furniture, the art, the glass walls overlooking the city, all the same. But the air felt lighter, like something toxic had finally been removed. She dropped the gift box onto the marble island. It landed with a quiet, final sound. No champagne, no wine. She reached for the Macallan 25. Blaze used to call it her expensive little habit, a subtle way of minimizing everything she valued. Tonight, it wasn't a habit. It was clarity. The burn was sharp, clean, honest. More honest than anything she had allowed herself to feel in months. She didn't linger, didn't sit in it, didn't fall apart. She moved. Her office door closed behind her with a soft click. The only room Blaze had never understood. No aesthetics, no performance, just function, control, truth. She crossed to the wall. Biometric lock, scan, click. The safe opened. Inside, order, structure, control. She pulled out the black leather folder. Primary assets, her handwriting, precise, unemotional. Blaze used to laugh at this. Paper? Seriously? Everything is digital. Yes. And Evelyn was the one who built the systems that made digital vulnerable. She spread the documents across the desk. Incorporation papers, patents, ownership structures, financial records. Every piece aligned, every piece intentional. Blaze Baker owned 10%. A gift, a mistake. Evelyn Hart owned the rest. And more importantly, she controlled everything that made that 10% worth anything. She opened her laptop. The system loaded instantly. Of course it did. She had designed it. Access level, primary authority. Status, active. Her fingers moved without hesitation. Freeze discretionary accounts. Revoke executive override permissions. Initiate silent audit flags across all major transactions. No alerts, no warnings, just pressure, building. Because Evelyn didn't destroy things loudly. She dismantled them, systematically. And somewhere across the city, Blaze Baker was still celebrating a victory that had already been taken from him. It wasn't just a system, it was a fortress. Evelyn had built it that way on purpose. Every layer, every permission, every hidden override designed not for convenience, but for control, including the parts no one else knew existed. Blaze Baker had never bothered to learn it. He used to dismiss it with a wave of his hand, like complexity was something beneath him. "That's what we have people for," he would say, usually right before handing something off to Beatrice Montgomery, their CFO, smart, efficient, loyal, to him. Or at least that's what he believed. Because Blaze thought authority meant control. Evelyn knew better. Control wasn't what people saw. It was something they couldn't access. The system had rules, her rules. Any transfer above $10,000 required encrypted authorization tied directly to her credentials. Not delegated, not bypassed. For years, she had approved everything without hesitation. Travel, luxury purchases, consulting fees that quietly routed money to Lillian under layers of clean accounting language. She had trusted the structure, even when she shouldn't have. But trust and control are not the same thing. And now she was done approving. The first move was almost effortless. She searched for scheduled travel. Blaze Baker, Lillian Cross, St. Bart's, private resort, executive retreat. Next week. Evelyn could picture it clearly. Champagne by the pool, sunglasses, laughter. A victory lap funded by a company they thought they controlled. A few clicks, one authorization, gone. Flights canceled, suite released, reservations wiped. The system processed it instantly, quietly, without resistance. Somewhere, confirmation emails were already landing. She didn't stop there. Tonight's event was next, the gala. She pulled up the expense ledger. Venue, catering, photography, entertainment. Every charge is carefully labeled as corporate networking. Blaze had called it strategy. Evelyn reclassified it, unauthorized, pending audit. Then she issued stop payment orders, one by one. The venue, the caterers, the photographer who had just documented her humiliation in perfect clarity. Every vendor tied to that night was about to discover the same thing. The money wasn't there anymore. That was visible damage. Enough to cause confusion, not enough to end it. The real leverage sat quietly on her screen. The main operating account, $357 million, the company's bloodstream. Blaze believed he ran the company. The board believed it. The industry believed it. But perception isn't power. Power is control. And control is measured in who can move the money. Evelyn had designed fail-safes years ago. Not obvious ones, not decorative ones, real ones. Every major transaction required her authentication. Not just digital, physical. A hardware key locked away tied to her alone. The system assumed cooperation. That had been its only weakness, one she was about to remove. She opened the protocol panel. The interface appeared instantly. Initiate emergency financial protocol. Her design, her authority, her decision. She didn't hesitate. She clicked. Confirm. The system executed in seconds. All outbound transactions are frozen. All accounts restricted. All authority rerouted. The company didn't slow down. It stopped. Completely. No payments, no transfers, no access. A machine built for speed reduced to silence. Her phone lit up immediately. Blaze, Lillian, Beatrice. Unknown numbers stacking over each other, vibrating against the desk like something trying to break through. Confusion turning into panic. Panic turning into fear. Evelyn picked up the phone, watched it for a moment, then turned it off. Silence returned. Controlled. Intentional. She poured another glass of whiskey and stepped back toward the window. The city moved like nothing had changed. Inside, everything had. They thought they had taken her position, her influence, her place in the company. What they had actually done was activate a system they didn't understand. And the person who builds the system is the only one who knows how to stop it, or weaponize it. She slept for a few hours. When she woke, it wasn't exhaustion she felt. It was clarity, sharp, focused, undeniable. She turned her phone back on. Chaos. Missed calls in the hundreds. Messages stacking endlessly. Panic had already shifted into anger, and anger was sliding into desperation. She ignored all of it. Made coffee. Strong. Simple. Real. The apartment was quiet in a way it hadn't been in years. No tension, no background performance, no constant negotiation of space that no longer belonged to her. Halfway through her cup, the intercom buzzed. "Ms. Hart," the concierge said, carefully neutral. "There's someone here to see you. Gabe Carter. He says he works for Mr. Baker. He seems urgent." Evelyn allowed herself the smallest pause. Right on schedule. "Send him up." She already had the envelope ready. Gabe didn't knock properly. He rushed in, breathless, disheveled, barely holding himself together. "Ms. Hart, thank God. There's been some kind of system failure. Accounts are frozen, payroll can't go through, investor meetings are collapsing, Mr. Baker's cards are getting declined, Lillian's too, the trip got canceled and—" "Gabe." He stopped. Barely. "Breathe." He tried. "Can you fix it?" he asked. voice tight with urgency. Mr. Baker said it has to be something in the system you built. Evelyn studied him for a moment. Did he send you? Yes. Of course. He still thought this was a malfunction. Something accidental. Something she would fix. Gabe, she said calmly, were you at the gala last night? The shift in his expression was immediate. Recognition, discomfort, understanding. He nodded. Then you already know this isn't a glitch. She picked up the envelope and handed it to him. Give this to Blaze. He has 24 hours. Gabe stared at it, uncertain. What do I tell him about the accounts? Payroll? Everything? Evelyn met his eyes. Tell him the truth. He hesitated. And what is the truth? Her voice didn't change. There is no system failure. A beat of silence hung between them. The system is working exactly as designed. Gabe struggled to process that. I don't understand. Evelyn exhaled quietly. He wasn't the problem. He was just close enough to see it. How long have you worked here? 2 years. And in that time, how many major decisions have you seen Blaze finalize without my approval? He paused, thinking, connecting something that had always been there. None. Exactly, she said. Orion isn't his company, Gabe. It never was. She let that settle. I built it. I funded it. My patents sustain it. He's been the face, nothing more. Gabe's expression shifted again. Fear now. Real. What happens next? He asked. Evelyn gestured toward the envelope. That depends on how he responds. She walked him to the door, then paused. This isn't a glitch, she said. A faint, almost sympathetic look. You might want to update your resume. The door closed behind him. The silence that followed felt different, sharper, focused, because now, this wasn't controlled anymore. It was escalation. And Blaze Baker was about to understand exactly what that meant. The envelope wasn't a negotiation. It never had been. It was a surrender document, disguised as corporate restructuring, written with surgical precision and reviewed by Arthur Hale, the kind of lawyer people hired when they wanted outcomes, not arguments. He had called it elegant and devastating. 7 clauses, 7 points of impact. The first, Blaze Baker resigns as CEO of Orion Systems, effective immediately. No transition, no press-friendly narrative, no graceful exit, just removal. The second, Lillian Cross is permanently barred from any business involvement with the company or its subsidiaries. No consulting, no advisory roles, no indirect influence. The third, Evelyn Hart assumes full executive control, including financial authority down to individual expenditures. Nothing moves without her approval. The fourth, Blaze Baker repays $4.7 million. Every dollar he treated as his own. Travel, luxury, business expenses, gifts, hidden transfers. 7 years of extraction, documented, itemized, and now due. The fifth, within 72 hours, he issues a public statement acknowledging Evelyn as the founder, lead architect, and majority shareholder of Orion Systems. No ambiguity, no shared credit. The sixth, termination of all executive privileges. Corporate cards, assistants, travel access, everything that made his life comfortable and effortless. And the seventh, silence. A 5-year non-disclosure agreement. No interviews, no podcasts, no public commentary. The man who built his identity on speaking about work he never did would have nothing left to say. It was ruthless, career-ending, completely legal, and he had less than 24 hours to accept it. Evelyn expected him earlier. Pride usually collapses faster. But Blaze lasted until 11:30 p.m. The pounding on her door wasn't controlled. It was frantic, uneven, desperate. The sound of someone who had spent hours hearing the same answer over and over again, and finally understood it wasn't going to change. She took her time getting to the door. For 7 years, he had controlled the pace of everything. Tonight, that privilege was gone. When she opened it, he looked smaller. Not physically, but structurally. His suit was wrinkled, his hair disordered, his composure gone. But it was his eyes that mattered. The confidence had vanished, replaced by something raw and unmistakably human. Fear. Please, Blaze said, his voice breaking. You can't do this. You'll destroy us. The word didn't belong anymore. There is no us, Evelyn said calmly. She stepped aside and let him in. He walked into the penthouse like he didn't recognize it. which made sense. He had never understood what built it. He collapsed onto the sofa, running a hand through his hair. "You're not serious about these terms," he said. "The money alone. Evelyn, it's impossible." She poured herself a drink before answering. Slow, precise. "You spent it," she said. "That makes it real." "Our money," he pushed, reaching for something that used to work. "Company money," she corrected. "And your affair wasn't a business expense." His face gave in instantly. Not gradually, completely. The kind of collapse that comes when denial finally runs out of space. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," he said, his voice unraveling. "Lillian said it would push you, that you'd fight for me, that you'd make a scene." Evelyn watched him without expression. So this was a test. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. "You destroyed our marriage in front of hundreds of people just to see if I would perform for you," she said quietly. The words landed heavier than anything she could have shouted. "Interesting strategy." It was, she cut in, her voice lowering just enough to change the temperature in the room. "You turned my life into a performance. You made yourself the center of it, and you cast me as the humiliation." She leaned forward slightly, her gaze steady and exact. "But you missed one detail." He looked at her then, not defensively, not strategically, just late. "The person you tried to erase," she said, "owns everything you used to do it." Silence settled in the room, thick and undeniable. His eyes moved around the space, the art, the glass, the skyline, trying to hold on to something that was already gone. "The terms are extreme," he said finally, but the argument had already collapsed. "The money, the statement, the NDA, you're destroying my future." Evelyn stood, signaling the end. "No," she said calmly. "I'm removing everything that was never yours." That was when the last piece of resistance left him. He tried once more, but it wasn't strategy anymore, just reflex. "You have the video," he said quickly. "The proposal. You could use it. You could destroy Lillian." Evelyn reached for her phone, opened the file, and let it play for a few seconds. Laughter, his voice, Lillian's smile. He watched it like it could still save him. Then she deleted it. Completely. "What are you doing?" he said, panic breaking through. "That was leverage." She looked at him, steady and unmoved. "I don't need leverage," she said. "I have proof." She tapped the folder. "Ownership records, patents, financial trails, 7 years of documentation." Her voice stayed even. "She's not the problem," Evelyn said. "You are." And that was it. Blaze didn't argue again. "I'll sign," he said quietly. "I'll sign everything." Evelyn walked to the door and opened it. "You have until noon," she said. "After that, the terms change." He stopped at the threshold, turned back one last time, searching for something familiar, something he could still recognize. "This isn't you," he said. Evelyn met his gaze without hesitation. "You're right," she said. "It's not who I was." She closed the door. The next morning, she dressed with intention, not for him, for the room. Because the next battle wouldn't be private, it would be witnessed. And this time, they would understand exactly what they were looking at. The boardroom was silent in a way that felt heavier than noise. Beatrice Montgomery sat rigid, papers aligned too perfectly, her pen no longer moving. Around the table, board members avoided eye contact, each of them quietly recalculating everything they thought they knew. At the far end sat Blaze Baker. He looked like a man who had already been replaced. The envelope in front of him was signed, submitted early. Even now, he was trying to follow rules he had never respected before. Evelyn walked to the head of the table and sat down, not as a gesture, as fact. "Good morning," she said, her voice calm and exact. "As of today, there have been structural changes to Orion Systems." She didn't rush the next words. She let the room catch up just enough to understand what was coming. Effective immediately, Blaze Baker has resigned as CEO. This time, the silence wasn't confusion. It was impact. She continued without hesitation. "I will be assuming the role of CEO, with full financial oversight authority. All expenditures will now require executive approval." No reaction, because no one was in a position to challenge it. Additionally, Lillian Cross has been terminated and permanently barred from any involvement with the company. Now they understood. This wasn't a shift. It was a correction. Blaze, Evelyn said, turning toward him. Your statement. He stood, slowly, paper in hand. I wish to acknowledge that Evelyn Hart is the founder, lead architect, and majority shareholder of Orion Systems. He read, his voice tight, controlled only by necessity. She developed the core technology, secured the patents, and made the strategic decisions that built this company. Eyes moved across the room, toward her. For the first time, accurately. I was the public face, he continued, but she was always the one in control. I take full responsibility for misrepresenting my role. He sat down. No recovery, no performance. Just the end. Evelyn stood and walked to the board display. She wrote 4 lines. Revenue generated by Evelyn Hart's patents, $847 million. Unauthorized executive spending, $4.7 million. Strategic decisions made by Blaze Baker, 0. Core systems authored by Blaze Baker, none. She turned back to the room. This is the company, she said. No one disagreed. Financial restrictions are lifted. Operations resume immediately under revised controls. A full audit begins today. She looked around the table. Any questions? There were none. Not because they didn't have them, because they finally understood where the answers came from. 6 months later, Evelyn's life no longer resembled what it used to be. Not because she had lost anything, because she had removed what didn't belong. She sold the penthouse. It had never been a home. It had been a performance. She moved somewhere quieter, smaller, real. For the first time in years, she wasn't surrounded by people performing success. She was surrounded by people living it. The story came out, not his version, the truth. She was invited to speak, to teach, to build again, this time without compromise. She funded founders who reminded her of something she almost forgot mattered. Substance. That's how she met Chloe Chen. Brilliant, unfiltered, building something real. Evelyn didn't hesitate. She invested, because this time she wasn't betting on appearances. She was backing reality. Months later, a letter arrived. From Blaze. No status, no platform, just words. He wrote that Lillian had left the moment the money did, that he was learning to code, that he finally understood the difference between being important and being useful. Evelyn read it once, then folded it away. Not erased, not revisited, finished. Because the truth was simple. She hadn't destroyed him. She had removed everything that wasn't real, and what remained was finally his responsibility. That was the lesson. You don't win by breaking people. You win by taking back what was always yours and letting reality do the rest. Some victories don't need witnesses. They don't need noise. The most powerful ones leave you with something far quieter: clarity, and the unshakable understanding that you never lost anything that truly mattered. If this story made you feel something, hit that like button. Drop a comment telling us what you would have done in the main character's place, and subscribe to Sinner Stories so you never miss a new video.